A fair, reasonable, customary price for IFA initiation is going to be between $5,000 to $15,000. So the cost can vary so many different ways for so many different reasons. Okay, it's going to depend on definitely the region, the location where you are, because the process can also vary, especially when we're talking about initiating in Nigeria versus in the Western world, right? So in the Caribbean islands, even here in America, the UK, and other parts of the world, the price is definitely going to range based on the cost of living in those areas, if nothing else. Okay. The number of days also. So typically, as I said before, 3 to 21 days, that can be the range, but usually it's going to be 3 to 7 days, but the span can be up to 21 days and even beyond, just depending on how they, handle that particular process. Also, the level of expertise of the owl, the person, or it's going to be one main person for sure, but there are also other officiates and things like that there. So obviously, the higher level that person is, the more knowledge, the more expertise, the more in demand they are, the more they're going to charge for their services. And I'm going to get into this later, but you got to understand, when a person is initiating you, that pulls them away from every other thing that they could be doing during that particular time. So they can't handle regular readings and ritual work and so forth and so on. Typical price range is $3,000 to $15,000, right, in the Western world and Nigeria. Again, depending on multiple factors, I'm going to get to why we have these big discrepancies in price here. Of course, it can be higher, it can be lower, just ultimately depends on the person, how they're pricing their process, so forth and so on. A fair, reasonable, customary price for IFA initiation is going to be between $5,000 to $15,000. Okay. That is what you should be looking at. Spending more money, though, doesn't mean that the process is better or more effective or more authentic. Likewise, paying less doesn't mean that you are getting a good deal. It all depends on what's going on in that. So now we're going to transition and look at the cost breakdowns, the variations in the prices, and some factors connected to transparency. So, what is included? You're paying for sacrifices and offerings, which are much more than what you would normally pay for during a typical IFA divination session. You have to pay the officiants, so the people that are overseeing the process, because typically it's going to be more than 1 hour. A lot of times you are even going to have the higher level priests and priestesses overseeing this particular ceremony for you. As I said before, these individuals must get paid for their time. Usually they lose whole days while they are participating in an initiation ceremony, because it takes up so much time, resources, energy, etc. Any type of materials that's needed at that shrine, garments, ceremonial garments. If necessary, they may have to rent a space. I see that a lot more. So here in the US, where they don't have like these formalized temples like you see in Nigeria and places like that, lodging and meals could be included. So some places will provide you with accommodations. They'll help you with that process. And so they may include that in the fee if they are going to be housing you. Otherwise, you have to pay for that on your own. And so the expense would pretty much still come out to be the same thing at the end of the day, because you still have to pay for somewhere to stay. Transportation, and what I mean by this is usually going to be local transportation in the area. Now, these factors, of course, apply to somebody who will be traveling from one place to another to get initiated versus somebody that's already in their particular space. And of course, other miscellaneous things, supplies, so forth and so on, go into their pricing structure. The central part of this is going to be the animal sacrifices, as I said before. It requires a lot more than what you would typically give whenever you just get a regular Ìtẹfá reading. The cost of the animals alone can range from like $2,500 to $3,000. Okay, that's just the animal. So this is why you would know, like, a price of $3,000 or less is on the cheaper end. Because what happens here, if it is cheaper than like $3,000, that person is probably skimming on the animals that they need to do your ritual work. Instead of providing maybe like 4 or 5 chickens, they may be providing 1 chicken or something like that. And this is something that you do not want to happen, because initiation, you are feeding multiple spirits during that time. All right, you're not just feeding one spirit, and you're giving a lot. It's a huge process. Not only that, is there are standard animal sacrifices that are going to be used in that process. But even so, there could be cases where check-ins are done and there are extra animals that are needed in individual circumstances. That's another factor that they have to account for as well, because they don't know that ahead of time. It's not like an Ìtẹfá reading where you do, the divination and you tell the person, this is what Ogun, Eshu, so forth and so on, ask for, and you can give them a straight price. You don't know really until the person is going through the process exactly what they need outside of those standard sacrifices and offerings. As I mentioned several times before, when you're giving offerings in the Ìtẹfá tradition, when you're sacrificing an animal, you want the top level animal to be sacrificed. You don't want just any animal that somebody goes out there and finds in the bush. So I'm talking about Africa here, because I know that's not a thing in the average part of the US. But my point being here is, you don't want an animal that's just reared for general purposes. Definitely not an animal, especially in the US, that is reared to just be cooked and eating. Okay, you want animals that are raised in a specific way, because this is for your spiritual work. Very similar to the biblical concept here. As a matter of fact, that's where it came from in the Bible, is that we want animals of the highest grade. If you go back into the Old Testament, you'll see a number of stories. Even so, Cain and Abel, how Abel gave like a lesser offering, so to speak. And that's why the God of the Bible was upset with him. But even so, he gave it was a non-animal sacrifice or what have you, right? And so why did he get upset? Because he gave something weaker. And we don't want to do that. We want to give the highest quality. The highest quality is going to cost more money. That's how it goes, okay? So keep those things in mind when it comes to the animals. You don't want somebody skimming in this process at all. You don't want them skimming even in regular ritual work, but definitely not when it comes to your initiation ceremony, okay? Some individuals are going to provide you with a complete package that includes like all of the items and the services together. That's the price that you are going to pay, while others might give you like a list of materials and ask you to go and collect them, or you might pay for them separately. Again, everybody's price is different. It's just like any other thing in the world. Like, you're going to go places and you're going to find different processes for this. I will say here, though, it's better for you not to get the items yourself. It's better for somebody who is trained in this capacity to move forward and get those things for you if possible. Now, some ELAs will allow you to do a payment plan, or they might, like, say, pay part of it up front. It might be a third, it might be half of it. It just depends on their processes or what have you. Some places also offer group initiation. So this can either like reduce your fees, especially if you're initiating with a group of people, because then is less money to bring all of the officiants there and so forth, so on. And also, if they offer a payment plan, it may just be better for you overall if you kind of manage your resources, your financial resources in that way. When you get ready for this process, especially if you are shopping around, so to speak, which I don't recommend, but that's your thing. If you are going to shop around, you can go out and compare the price of multiple elays. Ask for a cost breakdown. Do your research, standard pricing, and so forth and so on to help you to make a sound decision. That being said, I always recommend that you initiate at the house that you've been working with. In that case, it's not going to be the best idea to go and shop around, because if you have a relationship already established with an elay, with the Ìtẹfá, the owl, or what have you there, like going to get somebody else's price doesn't really make sense. Okay, and definitely, please do not do this. Do not go to somebody else and say, well, this person charges this over here. Again, it's like anything else in life. You are not going to go from a Honda dealer to a Bugatti dealer and tell Bugatti that Honda charges $25,000 for whatever vehicle that you're looking at, a Civic Accord or whatever it may be, right? Because they're going to look at you like, okay, because it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant, because now you're at a different dealership. So please don't do that type of price comparison. At the end of the day, guys, if you're not financially ready for this endeavor, wait. Prepare yourself financially if this is the road that you want to travel down when it comes to working with Ìtẹfá.